Roll call.
Jeff Renahan, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Jessica Lopez, Third Ward.
Michael Safone, Fourth Ward.
Matthew Williver, Fifth Ward.
Ann Schuster, Sixth Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, attorney for the town, and with me is Amy Johnson from our office.
John Basley, Town Supervisor. Welcome, everybody. For tonight's agenda, it's rather small. I'll just read down what it is, and then we'll start. The first thing is a public hearing on special district budgets. The second is a public hearing on the 2020 budget. Number 3 is a public hearing on a community development block grant. Number 4 is waive fees for Germania's Chris Kingle Market. 5, waive a liquor license for Acropolis Diner. 6, authorize the supervisor to sign a license term extension with Tilcon Ballfields. 7, notification of claim, Pedersen Real Estate Holdings versus the town et al. At this point, I'd like to make a motion, public hearing number 1 on special districts.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody here to discuss public hearing number 1, which is on special districts, sewer districts, water district, lighting, etc.?
It was adjourned, so it's
If not, make a motion to close public hearing 1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Be resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to public hearing, held on October 2nd, 2019 and October 30th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt the special district assessment role which concerns the water district, sewer districts, and drainage districts of the Town of Poughkeepsie, and be it further enacted that the legal notice of the public hearing was posted on September 20th, 2019, and published in Poughkeepsie Journal September 23rd, 2019. So move.
Second.
The motion and second. Any questions in this public hearing? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to public hearing number 2. Open the public hearing on the preliminary budget.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody would like to discuss the preliminary budget? This is the time. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Basley.
Good evening. Yes,
members
everybody.
of the town board.
Yes, everybody try to keep all their comments during public hearings to approximately 3 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Basley, I've looked at your budget. It's just under 150 pages. And I've heard that you're touting a $1.6 million decrease in our taxes.
Negative.
Negative?
1.6 million under the tax cap.
Okay. That's not what your literature says, but that's a different story. Am I correct in reading your budget that the $1.6 million decrease, based on what you've said publicly, is based on $820,000 increased water meter sales and $745,000 that is coming out of our appropriated sewer fund balance? Is that where the money's coming from?
That's where some of the money's coming from.
Well, that's $1.6 million.
It's not where all the money's coming from. There's other items throughout the budget that are in different categories. They're going up and going down.
Okay, so you've increased our water bills by $820,000, and you're taking money out of our rainy day fund, out of our savings, to the tune of $745,000 from the S fund, $100,000 from the B fund, and $50,000 from the DB fund to balance this budget. Is that accurate?
No, that's not accurate. The water fund money is not increases. We settled a settlement with the city of Poughkeepsie on third-party water sales with IBM, which used to be IBM, which is now Global Foundries, which brought in an increase of over $700,000 a year. And that is part of it. We also have to pay for the water, so that's not the whole part of it. So it's not correct.
But you've increased our water rates by 25%.
And we've lowered the capital rates.
Okay, so you took money out of our savings, and you're going around claiming that you've decreased the taxes.
It's not money out of your savings. There's fund balances there, and your fund balance is meant for a certain level. So your fund balance is there. We have very conservative budgets, and by having extras left over, you can use some of that fund balance to balance your budget. This is a public hearing, so just please state all your cases.
I have one more question, sir. The sewer fund balance of $745,000, how did it get to be so high?
Sewer fund balance is $745,000?
That's the $745,000 that's being allocated.
It's not a high number by any,
Well, it's almost $4 million total, the fund balance, correct?
correct.
How did it get to be $4 million?
Because we had debt to pay off and the debt is going down. Yeah,
It's not because you've taken too much taxes over the last 3 years?
no,
No? That's not how the fund balance increases?
no. Fund balance increases by your revenue too. That is not the only way fund balance increases. You're incorrect.
I don't believe I am, sir, but thank you.
That's your choice.
I appreciate you using our budget for political purposes.
Yeah, no, thank you, but we prefer you not making town board meetings with political comments. Would anybody else would like to discuss the town budget? If not, I make a motion to close that public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mike, you are the chair of the finance committee. You guys have looked over yourself, Mr. Carlos and Mr. Renahan. It's been in your hands for a couple of weeks. I don't know if you've changed anything, what you've done.
We did. We made a few changes. The budget looked very good. We met with department heads. Everyone seemed happy with their budget. We did change the fund balance. We added money to a townwide drainage fund of $100,000. And we took that from our fund balance, and we made a couple personnel changes that did not affect the budget.
Personnel changes, I assume, we're not hiring or,
No, they were raises that were put into effect. We just started them a little earlier, that's
Okay.
all, for a couple employees. And full-time employees, we made sure all full-time employees got a raise this year as well. But the changes did not affect the budget.
okay. Anybody else got any comments at this time?
Yeah, actually, I have a question here too, and it's under sales tax distribution, that you're showing an additional $200,000 over the previous years. Is this realistic? Are we going to be able to see an
Yes, it
extra
is.
$200,000 from the
Dutchess-
county?
Dutchess County gives us a set fee every year.
Right.
And then the county executive put in an escalator factor a few years back. It started the year they had the fuel tax. That year, we received $160,000. From that year on, it's going up. This year, we're probably going to well exceed over $500,000, we're hoping. It's a very conservative number, so we don't go over.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I do. Just in logistically, are we intending to actually adopt this budget tonight? Is that the intent?
It's up to
Yes.
them to make that recommendation.
Okay. I would actually like to, if we could move it to the next board meeting, and only because there were changes made that aren't reflected in here. I also had some last minute correspondence with Charlie today, just trying to make sure about everything. And there was something else that we had discussed and I had brought up to finance that they were happy with, but it didn't get done. But he said after today, changes could still be made. So since we have until the 20th, I would love to get it what it is and have a copy, a tangible thing to vote on with all the changes in it so that we can just quick review it.
Well, the changes that we made were very minimal, and a lot of the changes we made were based on input we received from you. So what other changes did you have that need to be addressed?
Well, just, you said money got added for drainage, which I agree with. I am in full favor of the drainage study. I think it's very important. But then, yeah, there was one other thing that we had talked about, adding a line in the rec department. When I asked Charlie about that today, he said that it was discussed, but it didn't get done, and we could make changes after that. So if we can make changes after this, I would like to adopt the budget as it is with all changes.
Yeah, the one change that you brought up that I think we're discussing was about the separate wards. We figured we could find that in the regular.
In the rec.
In the regular
Yeah.
rec budget. We don't have to
Yeah.
put it in a separate line. We could
Yeah.
we can use that as part of the package. It shouldn't have to be
Yeah.
divided up separately and put a separate line. So that was the one, I asked that question today because I know we had a discussion a couple weeks ago about each ward being able to have something in their ward and we'd help fund part of it so it doesn't come out of somebody's personal pocket, which happened, a few weeks ago in one of our events. So
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure, and we said we could definitely find that
Yeah.
in the budget. It doesn't have to be a specific line item.
I do still stand my conviction, though, that because this doesn't reflect changes made as minimal or non-minimal, and we have the time, so why not put it on hold until next week, Charlie can get new ones out to us, and then we could vote on something tangible.
I agree. Council, what's the date we have to finalize the budget by?
November 20th.
November 20th.
November 20th?
So we're here next week on the 6th.
Makes no difference to me. As
Yeah,
long as we're legal, I don't care.
yeah,
That's fine then.
Okay.
thank you.
And we close the public hearing, we just won't vote on this.
Mr. Adjourned, no?
Yep.
Adjourn the public hearing?
Or adjourn the vote? Are we able to close the public hearing and
Close
adjourn the
public hearing. We
resolution?
don't have to vote tonight.
Or do you
Yeah.
want to close the public hearing?
Oh, yeah.
We closed the public hearing already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We have to vote on it, closing the public hearing.
okay, good. Okay, well, since we're going to go there, I have a question too for Charlie, because I don't understand the tax cap. Like, on this first page where it has the taxes by fund, because it shows that, we are reducing the amount that we are taxing for, which is wonderful. We're very supportive of it. That is an awesome thing. But the tax cap, it goes up. So it's more than the previous years. That's just the calculation of the tax cap then? Yeah, got it.
Right, because we go up 2%.
Right,
So
so
they
we're
take the
allowed to go
numbers-
up 2%. So this is a calculation from last year's tax, what the 2% increase would be?
Yes,
Yeah,
plus
and then
there's a
we're showing
growth-
we're definitely below that, okay.
Right, and there's a growth factor of .0044.
Right.
Which also gets calculated in, but yes.
Okay, good.
So are we taking in less tax for this coming year than we did last year?
Yes,
Yes.
And that's the 1.6 million figure?
yes, well, yes, yes.
Okay.
Reducing, yes.
How did we manage to do that without cutting anything?
Well, a lot of it was in the sewer districts, the special sewer districts. That's where major cuts are being, they're cutting in half. And yes, we are
Sorry,
using
cutting
some.
what in half? Cutting
The tax. We knocked 50% right down all the sewer districts. And that's where some of the fund balance is coming to cover. It's a major cut. But the expenses will be reducing next year. Debt will be coming off. So it's going to be a process. We're planning to cut the special districts for the next couple of years. So the sewer would be working on just usage.
Is that going to deplete the sewer fund balance?
No, we don't, no.
So is the ultimate goal then for sewer to operate as water does, where it
Correct.
essentially pays for
That-
itself?
yes,
correct.
So that's,
But, yes, and the sewer fund balance was high, and that's accumulation of years and years and years. So I'm taking a chunk. I don't intend on using all that fund balance.
Charlie, what happens with it if you don't use it?
It stays in fund balance.
Is
And
there a cap that the fund balance can't go over?
No, it's basically up to each town, and the state will watch that you don't have too much fund balance.
Okay.
They will notify-
What happens if we end up with too much fund balance? Is
Well,
there-
they'll send us a little, slap on the wrist, or send us an email or a letter, because each year I do the AUD, annual updated document, and I give them all our fund balances, what we did for the year, so they have everything. How much fund balance we have, we don't have. And you can see when the state puts out, distressed towns and whatnot, it's all because we have to feed the state. And if they say we have too much fund balance, then we cut fund balance. We don't have enough. State wants one thing, Moody's wants another. When we go to borrow, Moody's likes to see a higher fund balance, state wants a lower fund balance. So
But
we
we
got to
can-
get a happy medium.
So if I'm understanding this right, we can occasionally use fund balance to lower taxes?
Yes, or keep taxes flat, yes.
Okay.
And the fund balance in case of emergency, something drastic comes up, we have to hit the fund balance. And the fund balance also carries me the first 3 months of the year.
Okay.
Because the budget ends December, I need cash to cover January, February until we
Before
collect the
anything else is
taxes.
coming in, right,
So you're looking for,
little
20%,
carryover,
yeah.
okay.
The
So,
state wants like between 16 and 20 to be comfortable.
Okay.
That's what they like. Moody's likes
That's
more.
across the board. That's not just sewer, right?
No.
That's
no, yeah, overall, yes,
Like,
yes.
it seems like a lot.
Ultimately, the special districts will be more understandable. Gets to the usage point too. I think.
Yes, yes. It eventually has to get to be like water, where it's self-contained.
Okay.
So do we have to make a motion to adjourn the vote on the resolution, or Jim?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn resolution number 2 for November 6th.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion
And the
passes.
public hearing was closed?
Yes.
Public hearing.
Yep.
Okay, I was making notes
Yes.
or something. Thank you.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to public hearing number 3, a community development block grant. Like to make a motion to open that public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Tom, you want to come up for a minute? This is the same grant that we got last year for Over Rocker Park, a totally inclusive park. So going forward, we thought that that park turned out very well. For the amount of money we had to put in, it was a great park for the neighborhood. And community block grants are only by certain neighborhoods rated by income levels where they can be. And this year we've targeted as our neighborhood as Sheaf Road Park down in Tilcon. And we were looking to do the same kind of project down there.
Correct. There's going to be a couple of changes to it, and that will actually end up costing us a little bit more than it did over here at Over Rocker. We are putting in for an inclusive playground, which means a playground that would be accessible for wheelchairs, accessible for all children, basically. To do that, we don't have a tennis court that we can convert like we did over here, so our first step will be having to pave a pad for the playground to go on. And then I'm assuming we're going to use basically the same playground as we had here, which was, I believe, like $160,000 total. You know, we have to add in 30 or 40 for the pad underneath it. The grant we're putting in for 95, which is pretty much what we've been told is the total amount that you can ask for, and the rest will have to probably come from the Recreation Trust Fund.
And I think it's beneficial being the location. We have one up here on this end of town and have one down there. It actually, I think, will definitely be beneficial to the town and having the locations. And they're both on, I think, semi-heavily traveled roads, which are also beneficial to get the visibility to see where we're going. In this park up here now, it's only been open 3 weeks. I've seen a lot of turnout during the day and stuff. It seems to be very active now.
Yeah, we couldn't keep the kids off it even before it got finished, so.
No.
I was visiting neighbors the other day, and that the neighbor that lives right next door said it's so nice to see that before all we saw was garbage there, and now there are kids playing. It's full all day, so it's great.
And this is an excellent park to do next, too. The Sheaf Road Park, it's probably our oldest park. Yeah.
It's one of the older ones, yes.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be beneficial because there's a lot of ball games played there, so you'll get a double use out of it like you did in Over Rocker. It's not just a park for just a park.
Right.
You got the ball fields, and we have a basketball court there also, so I think it'll help out.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Tom.
All right, thanks, Thomas. Make a motion. Anybody else like to discuss this grant? If not, make a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Carlos.
Project Town of Poughkeepsie Sheaf Road Park Improvement. Whereas the Town of Poughkeepsie is participating in Dutchess County Community Development Consortium for the fiscal year 2020, and whereas input from citizens and groups has been received and considered, and whereas an application is being prepared that addresses our community concerns, and whereas that the legal notice of a public hearing was posted on October 17th and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on October 19th, and now therefore be it resolved that the submission of said application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development be and hereby is authorized, and be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the supervisor or his designee to execute all papers necessary and proper to effectuate the acceptance of this grant, and be it further resolved that the work involved is part of the town's ongoing administration as a type 2 action requiring no secret review. So moved.
Second.
A motion second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the end of our public hearings. As far as town board agenda items, fees for Germania, it's a liquor license for Acropolis Diner, a license term extension for Tilcon Ball Fields, which is in relation to the community block grant, which we just did, and a notice of claim. Make a motion to suspend the rules for any item on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Would anybody like to discuss any item that's on the agenda? If not, motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go.
Whereas the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received a request submitted by Bill Reuter, president of Germania, to hold Christomart German Christmas market to be held on Friday, November 22nd, 2019, from 4 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m., and Saturday, November 23rd, 2019, from 10 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. at Germania, 37 DeGarmo Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, Now therefore, be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the request as submitted for said event to be held on Friday, November 22nd, 2019, from 4:00 p.m. to 8:00 p.m., and Saturday, November 23rd, 2019, from 10:00 a.m. to 4:00 p.m., and does hereby waive all permit fees as requested in said letter received October 16th, 2019, from Bill Reuter, a copy of which is attached. So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Any question on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby acknowledge receipt of a request on behalf of the Acropolis Diner, 819 Main Street, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of 30-day review period for a liquor license application. And be it further resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby approve the town clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent pursuant to the attached request. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any question on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution 6, whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has for many years enjoyed the benefit of no-charge agreements from Tilcon Inc., which allow the town to operate the Crown Heights, Nassau Road, and the Sheaf Road parks on Tilcon lands, which were most recently renewed as 3-year license agreements beginning on May 22, 2019. And whereas extending the term of those license agreements from 3 to 5 years would allow the town to potentially qualify for grant monies to make park improvements at Sheaf Road Park and would increase administrative efficiency. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute letter agreements with Tilcon Inc., modifying the Sheaf Road and Crown Heights Nassau Parks license agreements to be for 5-year terms from May 22, 2019. Be it further resolved that the extension of these license agreements is a Type 2 action requiring no secret review. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any question on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
And the last one is just a claim to legal from Kenneth Peterson Real Estate Holdings versus the town.
All right, that brings us to the end of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody like to discuss any town issue at all? Going once? Good. Make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nothing? Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Happy Halloween, everybody.